Hey, John, I don't understand the gospel. It's something I hear a lot. John, I don't understand the gospel. Everywhere I go, every church I go to, they confuse me, because they do different things, they act different things, they act out different things, all these rules and all these stuff, and I'm confused. I don't know how I'm supposed to live. I don't know what what to do right, what to do wrong. I don't know what's right. I don't know what's wrong. I want you to understand something. If this is you, right? In the New Testament, there were 3 eras concerning law and grace during the time of the writing of the New Testament. These 3 eras are eras that are very much well alive in the church today. Eras that have continued until this day, even though the truth is so clearly taught in the scriptures. These eras are alive and well, and in the scriptures, even though they correct it, these eras are damning to the church today, and they are damning to those who need to be freed by the power of the gospel. I'm going to tell you these 3 eras very quickly. Legalism. What is legalism? Legalism is the teaching that we are saved by works, by observing rituals and ceremonies, and by keeping the law, right? One New Testament book which is devoted to correcting this so damning error is the Epistle to the Romans that Paul wrote. It can be summed up when Paul wrote in Romans 3:20, "Therefore we conclude that a man is justified by faith without the deeds of the law." Now there's another era. The second era is what we call in seminar or antinomianism, which is antinomianism teaches that because we are saved by grace, it makes no difference how we live and we behave. In other words, you can do what you want, live how you want, and it doesn't matter. Behave how you want. And one book of the New Testament which is devoted to answering this really, really bad satanic era is the book of James. It's summed up when James writes in James 1:2, "But ye doers of the word, be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves." What's the third era? The third era is something that we call Galatianism. This is the false doctrine which teaches that we are saved by grace, and then after that we are kept by the law, making our ultimate salvation dependent on our works instead of the grace of God. To combat this era, the Holy Spirit chose Paul, the apostle, to write the epistle to the Galatians. And this is by far the strongest argument that we are saved, kept and finally redeemed by grace without the works of the law. It is summed up in Paul's writing Galatians 5:1 when he writes, "Stand fast therefore in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage." Understand this, folks. Understand this, and I want to say this briefly because I'm waiting for my son in the car right line. But understand this, folks, that salvation is not a matter of law and grace, but it is a matter of law or grace, for it cannot be both. And if it's grace, then is it no more of works? Otherwise, grace is no more of grace. But if it be of works, then it is no more grace. Otherwise, work is no more work, according to Romans 11:16. And what was the gospel Paul preached then? It was the message of grace. Paul preached grace. The test of the gospel, folks, is grace. I want you to know that if the message you hear of the gospel, and if the message you hear is the gospel, ask only one question when you do. Excuse me, I got sidetracked there. Is it the message of grace and only grace with nothing added? Yes. The test of the gospel is grace. The answer is yes. If the message excludes grace or mingles law with the grace as means of either justification or sanctification, then you're hearing another gospel, which is not the real gospel of Jesus Christ. Paul sums this argument up in Galatians chapter 2, verse 21. He says, "I do not frustrate the grace of God, for if righteousness comes by law, then Christ is dead in vain." Wow. What a terrible thing to say, that our righteousness can be gained by works or law keeping. Those things are wrong. People that are teaching these things, that you're saved by righteousness, that our righteousness can be gained by our works, or our righteousness can be gained by keeping certain rules or laws or dogmatic rules imposed on people, that's wrong. And why? Because it accuses God of needlessly letting his son be murdered without reason. The believer saved by the grace of God, has to renounce all legal claims to the mercy of God, but accept everything as a gift. Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. The believer saved by the grace of God renounces all legal claims to the mercy of God, but accepts everything as a gift. If you work for something, then you earned it. If you work for a reward, then you earn that reward. Nothing you do saves you. If God saves you because of anything that you do, then God is indebted to you. And you got to understand, Romans 4:4 says, "Now to him that worketh is the reward not reckoned of grace, but of debt." If you work for or earn your salvation or work to keep it, then God owes you salvation as wages, and you don't have to thank him for it because you have earned it and God owes it to you. Don't you see why God will not allow any man to work his way into heaven? God does not give us a start for heaven by grace and then say, okay, now keep on doing your own thing, live how you want to live, and keep going on your own power. Do your thing. I have nothing to do with it. That would give us something to crow about and boast about, saying, yeah, he God saved me, but I got here by hanging on. You know what I'm saying? Like, So hearing me say this, you're probably saying to yourself, okay, John, so then what in the world is grace? I'll tell you what grace is. Grace is the death of pride. It slays all self-exaltation. Nothing will humble a person like the grace of God. And when I see a proud Christian, a cocky Christian, I know that he does not fully understand the grace of God. Why? Because there will be no bragging or strutting in heaven. There will be no bragging rights in heaven. If the Lord would let you have anything to do with your salvation, you would be the biggest bore in heaven. You would be a pest in boasting. Heaven would never hear the last of it. You would never get through telling about it. That is the reason that Paul says, why it is not of works, lest any man should boast. For by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. Think about it. God bless you.